Tomorrow from the new show Unprisoned, Kerry Washington and her co-star Delroy Lindo will be here.
And y'all, we're going to play America Says with John Michael Higgins.
It's almost Friday.
It's almost Friday.
When is
y'all
Friday?
Y'all have made it. Friday is just one day away.
Bye.
Bye.
Are we all done?
KUAM TV8, first on Guam.
KUAM News, winner of the 2022 Regional Edward R. Murrow Award for Excellence in Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Culture Club.
KUAM News Hotspot is brought to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
In a recent pastoral letter, the Vicar General of the Archdiocese of Hagåtña, Father Romeo Convocar, recapped the significant milestones in the Church's 4-year journey of bankruptcy, a bankruptcy triggered by the decades-long sexual abuse by former clergy members. The court has approved a reorganization plan, and the Archdiocese has now reached a formal agreement of reparation and compensation with the abuse victims. The judge's ruling defines the final conditions or terms under which the bankruptcy status will be lifted. They include the transfer of significant real estate parcels, cash contributions from various entities, establishing an unknown tort claim reserve fund, and providing tuition and cemetery vouchers for victims and their families. Some of the properties to be given up have sacred or historical importance. There is the Chancery, where Pope Paul was housed, and the San Vittore Shrine in Tumon. In his concluding remarks, Vicar General Convocar said, quote, "The Archdiocese asks for the faithful's prayers as it enters a new chapter to emerge with leaner but healthier parishes and schools which make a stronger Archdiocese." He adds that in the end, quote, "The Archdiocese hopes that the plan of reorganization will bring closure to the victims survivors of clergy sexual abuse and their families, and that it will allow the Church to move forward and continue to serve the community in Guam." Coming up, our interview with Father Romy Convocar. Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Hub. I'm Nestor, and joining us for this show is the Vicar General of the Archdiocese of Hagåtña, Father Romeo Convocar, and the spokesman of the Archdiocese, Mr. Tony Diaz. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, Nestor, Jason.
Yeah, Father, the reason we asked you to come on, and we appreciate your being here, is you recently released a pastoral letter that kind of outlines the way forward following the bankruptcy settlement, and it contained a lot of information there. And so I was wondering if maybe you can just kind of talk about some of the main points of your pastoral letter.
Well, thank you for that. First, we needed to inform our faithful of everything that's detailed in the confirmed plan by the judge. And so we have to detail it out for our faithful to know and for everyone to know, so that they will have the knowledge of what extent this bankruptcy has affected our lives. At the same time, we need to call our people to for healing and unity. Throughout these years of our journey, there were a lot of hurts. First, coming from the victims, they were hurt by members of the church in the past, and we apologize for that. Certainly, there is a communal responsibility here. I cannot say that I'm not part of it. As a church, we have a cumulative or communal responsibility. There were also hurts coming from our own people that love our church, those who donated properties or resources, helped build the church. And this whole bankruptcy affected them also. It affected our resources. A lot of our resources has been channeled to settle these sexual abuse cases of the church. And so it affected everyone. So there are a lot of frustrations even in the regular members of our church worshiping community, because our finances are affected. And of course, the loss of trust, and many other factors, multi-factors. So we would like to ask everyone that, we are one body in Christ. We are members of this church. And in our suffering, we recognize that the Lord is journeying with us. And so um, it's difficult for everyone, but we also needed to settle and take care of the members of the community who were hurt. We have to compensate them as required by law. um, I think we are demanded by justice to restitute, to take care of those who are hurt. And so might be difficult for everyone, but we needed to restitute so that we all can move forward and get out of this bankruptcy and rebuild or renew our church. So in all this difficult journey and struggle, we recognize that Christ is with us, the Lord is with us in our journey, and we are one church. Even those that were abused or hurt, they are members of our church. And so we need to come together as one and receive healing in all our hurts. Otherwise, if we do not do that, we remain in the dark. We remain in our shall I say, frustrations and dark situations. We need to move forward and renew our church as one.
Yeah, you mentioned, Father, in your pastoral letter that it's a time for healing, and you sort of related to the holy season of Lent. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Yes, thank you for that. Lent calls us to renew our relationship with God and with one another. Lent means springtime. So it's a time to bounce back, like during our journey, life is a journey. Every year we have the opportunity with the season of Lent to kind of bounce back in our spiritual journey, to nourish our faith. So it's a good time for us to renew our relationship with God and with one another in this season of Lent. And all these hurts and difficulties that we were going through the years, it's a long journey. It's now an opportunity for us to bounce back, nourish our faith, as not only individually but as a community. So Lent is a good season. I printed this quotation from the book of the prophet Joel chapter 2 verse 12, that says, "Even now says the Lord, return to me with your whole heart." So this is an invitation individually and as a community, to grow in our spiritual life together and reconcile with one another, reconcile with God, and rebuild and renew our church. So that's our call to everyone.
Absolutely. We're going to have to take a real quick break, Father and Tony, and we'll be right back with more right after this.
Have you had your updated COVID-19 bivalent booster? This is the updated booster to protect you from both the original virus that causes COVID-19, as well as the Omicron and other variants. Why get the bivalent booster? The virus that causes COVID changes over time, and different versions of the virus, called variants, are expected to occur. Getting the updated booster is important for children 6 months to 4 years who completed the Moderna primary series, and for everyone 5 years and older, if it's been at least 2 months since the last COVID-19 vaccine dose. An updated booster helps restore protection that may have waned over time, including protection against severe illness, hospitalization, and death. Get the booster for protection. Remember, prevention saves lives.
The most tempting part of your week is guaranteed to be the Subway and Chili's Lunchbox Hours. Catch it Mondays through Fridays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Breeze 93.9 FM as we bring you the greatest hits of your lifetime from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. So grab yourself a mouth-watering Subway Series Select sandwich or something sizzling and flavorful from Chili's. This Lunchbox Hour is brought to you by Subway, Eat Fresh, and Chili's, where more life and great value happen here.
And we're back with the Vicar General of the Archdiocese of Hagåtña and Father Romeo Convocar and the spokesman for the Archdiocese, Mr. Tony Diaz. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Let me just continue our discussion. Earlier, you mentioned that, there's obviously certain things that the bankruptcy court requires of the church in terms of compensation to the victim survivors. I think can you explain some of the reimbursement terms? And Tony, let me know if it's beyond what you're able to discuss at this point. But I think the reimbursement terms include real estate, cash, insurer contributions, and also, interestingly, tuition and cemetery.
We have that we needed it to sustain the church and our operation, but at the very least, as they looked at it, it's non-essential, meaning we can survive even without it. And of course, we have to provide them some financial contributions. And then since our resources are deemed not enough by the court, we need also to provide some tuition fee vouchers of about 150 of them, 150 in the different schools. And then also 50 cemetery vouchers. Again, the details of this will be for the lawyer to explain and work with the trustee. So the trustee is the entity that is given by the court the authority to provide compensation or to distribute the compensation to the claimants, to the victims.
One other aspect of the reparation comes in terms of meeting with the victims and their attorneys in known as the creditors committee. They asked if the Archdiocese could provide a forum through our website for if any of the victims wanted to tell their stories of abuse of that terrible, terrible time, which for many of them still continue. They continue to have those wounds, by inviting them to tell their stories on our website. They've also asked, and we agreed as part of this compensation plan, to put out regular yearly announcements and ads in the paper asking if people who know of abuse or who have themselves been abused to step forward and contact our specific safe environment program.
So what Tony basically is saying is that other than the material and financial compensation, there are non-monetary terms that are included in this. So part of that is, as he mentioned, and then the safe environment program. So we had been implementing the safe environment program since Archbishop Michael Burns. We have those protocols that are existing, and they are part of the non-monetary terms that we have to provide a safe environment for our children and the vulnerable.
For instance, background clearances of all who are employees and all who work directly with children, and then training online that everyone's required to take relative to sexual abuse awareness and sexual abuse prevention. You can never really do enough, whether you're talking about the church or just groups in the community or families themselves.
Sure. One of the things that I think the questions in the community is about the real property transfers. It identifies, there's a list that was produced in the court that identifies, for example, like the Mangilao Church and some different schools that will be affected. But that doesn't mean you're transferring, the church itself or the school itself. These are parcels that belong to that parish, but are not currently being used or not part of the actual structure of the church or the school itself. Is that correct?
Right. We are not giving away any of our essential properties, meaning our churches, our schools, but some or a good number of our properties have one mother title. So meaning we have to parcel them. So there are areas that needed to be provided for the compensation of the victims. And so in the list that is displayed is the title number for the entire property, but a portion of that property will be going to them and a portion remains for us. So if there are questions regarding this, the in charge of our patrimony is our chancellor, Jenny Shimizu. So if there are individual questions particular to the properties, we will refer to her.
Yeah, and Father, there's also you pointed out in your pastoral letter, there's a couple of properties in particular that have some sacred or historical significance. The chancery where the Pope stayed, and the San Vittore Shrine in Tumon. And one of the comments that you made was that you're hoping that whoever acquires those properties, we're going to treat it with the dignity that it. What did you mean by that?
Well, we are obligated to sell those two properties, and then it is important that the buyers recognize that these properties are kind of sacred for us, you know, not to take care because that's the business property that is given away, but for example the chancery. So hopefully we could work out with whoever will purchase it, because the purchase will be confirmed by the court. So hopefully we could work out with them that this is a property that John Paul II, the former or our late Pope, who is now a saint, once lived in this complex.
Yeah, just recently, February 22 and 23, really, we historical significance for our island. Even those who are non-Catholics can appreciate the historical